on Up North Live News at 6. ICE raids are happening across the country. What state departments in Michigan are advising what to do at the local level if it happens here. The criminal case involving a Grand Traverse County commissioner is being prosecuted in a northern Michigan county, where the state attorney general sent the case. The challenging rescue of a bulldozer operator in Alpena, where he was rescued from and how. Plus, a new way for patients to access their medical records, the new system being used at Munson Healthcare. And more wind and snow hitting northern Michigan, what the forecast looks like for the rest of the week.
This is Up North Live News at 6 on 7 and 4.
Thanks so much for joining us tonight at 6. We are starting off with a live look all around our viewing area, where the good news is for most of us, we are seeing a bit of a break in the snow. But the bad news is it is still very windy. So Trevor, will this break in the snow last? And will these windy conditions last?
Unfortunately, it's a no for most people.
Okay.
We'll still have some snow around tomorrow. Concurrently, right now, we're in the middle of the warm front passing, but also there's going to be a cold front that's going to slip in. And we're going to get some more lake effect snow around the region building in a few hours tonight. And then for some people tomorrow as well, but not as widespread. But it will still be as windy, just not quite as much as today or yesterday. There's a look at our 4 cameras. If we had taken this at the top of the 5 just an hour ago, Mackinac City across the bridge looked a lot worse than it does now. Most areas are quiet at this point in terms of snowfall, but it is still pretty windy for some, especially in our central counties around US 10 and south of that. Wind gusts still up to 30 miles per hour or more. Beaver Island and Charlevoix also up to pretty gusty winds still this evening. We'll hold on to those wind gusts for the remainder of tonight as our wind swaps to out of the northwest. There's a look at the snow we do still have around the region, though. Most of it is along or east by 75, parts of Sheboygan County extending towards Presque and Alpena County as well, and also north towards Luce, Chippewa, and eastern Mackinac counties, still getting some snow this evening. That'll push off to the east, and then we'll fill in some more lake effect snow behind this later tonight. That'll happen overnight, going into tomorrow morning. And then tomorrow, still a pretty windy day with some lake effect snow showers for some. So I'll talk about that and our next bit of sunshine in just a few minutes.
First at 6 tonight, last week, the acting secretary of the Department of Homeland Security reversed guidance that restricted federal immigration agencies from making arrests in sensitive locations. Now, those would be places like schools and churches. State departments here in Michigan are advising what to do at the local level if ICE raids happen. Our Allie Baxter reports.
These images were posted to the Detroit Bureau of Homeland Security Investigations X page, explaining agencies are, quote, working to apprehend immigration violators in Michigan and Ohio.
They're trying to deter people from coming, and they're trying to send notice to people here, that this could be happening to them.
In an interview on ABC this week, Michigan Senator Alyssa Slotkin addressed the reversal of a policy that prevented ICE agents from going in schools and churches.
If the focus and the priority is on criminals, I'm not sure going after an 11-year-old is where you start. And I don't believe it that most Americans think that 11 and 12-year-olds are the ones who are the hardened criminals that need to go back to their countries.
In a memo to Michigan school districts, State Superintendent Michael Rice cited a Supreme Court ruling that confirms, quote, all children, regardless of citizenship and immigration status, have the right to equal access to a free public education. And as educators, we have a responsibility to protect that right. We're told multiple school districts across northern Michigan are addressing this with staff. None wanted to talk on the record about the guidance they issued.
The idea of going into children and terrorizing children, I just don't believe in supporting that kind of action.
In a letter to Catholic churches across the state, bishops pledged amid uncertainty to offer, quote, unyielding support and respect for the human dignity of all migrant people in our midst. In northern Michigan, Allie Baxter, Up North Live News.
Immigration and Customs Enforcement says more than 1,000 people have been arrested since Sunday. The criminal case involving a Grand Traverse County commissioner is being prosecuted in a northern Michigan county. Rob Henschel is being investigated for allegedly sexually assaulting a woman in October. The Grand Traverse County prosecuting attorney forwarded the case to the Attorney General's office last year to avoid a conflict of interest. The prosecuting attorney's coordinating counsel assigned the case to Benzie County. In a statement, prosecutor Sarah Swanson said in part, quote, "Once we feel the investigation is complete, we will make the determination on whether or not we believe we can prove this case beyond a reasonable doubt at trial. If we believe we can meet this burden, charges will be issued. If not, we will decline to issue charges," end quote. A Leelanau County man arrested for keeping a woman at his home against her will has pled guilty to 2 charges as part of a plea deal. 44-year-old Eric Asham pled guilty to 1 count of assault with intent to do great bodily harm and domestic assault. With that, the court says 2 additional charges of assault with intent to do great bodily harm and aggravated domestic assault will be dropped at sentencing. Now, this started back in August. Police said the woman was being held against her will for more than a week. Investigators blaming icy, snow-covered roadways for touching off a deadly weekend crash in Chippewa County. Just before 5 Saturday night, deputies responded to 911 calls reporting the crash on Mackinac Trail near 12 Mile. They found the road blocked by the aftermath. Investigators say it appears the first vehicle lost control and slid sideways into another car. They say no one from the second vehicle was still on scene, but all 3 in the first car were hospitalized and 1, a Brown City man, was killed. Meantime, the investigation is ongoing. A bulldozer operator is recovering after the machine the person was in rolled over into a pit. It happened at the Wholesome Alpena plant. Take a look at these pictures from the scene. The Alpena City Fire Department was called to the plant late last night. We're told a bulldozer working the top of a pile slid into a steep gravity-fed funnel of looser stone material. First responders were told injuries to the operator were not life-threatening. It was at the bottom of the pile, which was about 50 feet from the top. Now, first responders tried to rescue the operator with a 100-foot crane, but it was too short. Then a first responder was lowered into the hole and safely removed the victim. Rescue crews were called to help get a bus back on the road this morning in Grand Traverse County. Take a look at the video on your screen right now. It happened on M37 near Hamlin and Klaus Roads in Grawn. The side of the bus said Metalodge of Ludington. Any injuries are not known at this time. Boyne City Commissioners held an open discussion to consider housing priorities within the city. City Manager Michael Kane said the city has been looking at various funding options for assisting with the need for housing. Commissioners listened to a presentation about the possibility of utilizing a brownfield redevelopment authority.
The city or the county already has a contract in place with another organization similar that helps facilitate these programs. In addition to, we also operate the land bank, which has the same, if not similar benefits that are available to it as well, and that you can take a piece of property that's not technically even blighted, put it into a land bank, and therefore it becomes eligible for brownfield benefits. I mean, these tools already exist.
If you have a city brownfield, you can establish a plan for that site that then becomes a incentive to the developer and make sure that you are repaying yourself for the infrastructure costs incurred. And same thing if we do have a developer, we can negotiate with that developer, say, hey, the city's going to cover X amount of infrastructure costs, but we want to be repaid too.
Mayor Tim Nemchek says while no final decisions were made, it did give the city some options to consider. Munson Healthcare now has a new electronic software system in place, making it easier to access patient medical records. Oracle Health was put into place over the weekend and will now be used in all Munson Healthcare facilities across northern Michigan. With this new system, caregivers can access patient records across all sites. The care team can review lab test results, x-rays, CAT scans, or mammograms from anywhere in the system.
Really is about ensuring that our care team has access to all of that patient's information when they're interacting with that patient at the point of care.
Patients can interact with the system from the patient portal. Oracle Health will unify their records into a singular portal for various facilities.
My service in the Congress has been the honor of my life.
Listening in to Senator Gary Peters with a bombshell announcement. He will not seek re-election in 2026. Today, the Michigan Democrat announced he will retire at the end of his second term, opening up a highly competitive battleground Senate seat. Peters has served as chair of the Democratic Senator Campaign Committee since 2021, steering the party's efforts to support Senate candidates. He told the Detroit News he's passing the reins to the next generation and never saw congressional service as something one does for a lifetime.
Although I will not be on the ballot next year, I will not just walk away. I plan to actively campaign to ensure we elect a dynamic Democratic candidate to be the next U.S. Senator from Michigan. I'm leaving Congress, but I am not retiring. I look forward to writing many more chapters when my term ends.
With Peter's departure, Michigan will be a key player in 2026 in helping shape the party breakdown in the Senate.
We've got about one more day of pretty messy, windy, and snowy conditions for some tomorrow around northern Michigan, and then we'll turn over to some quiet weather and sunshine. I'll talk about both of those things in the main weather in just a few minutes.
I'm Jada Johnson from Big Boys TV, and the Fish and Game Report is sponsored by Johnson's Propane.